Hey guys, welcome to yet another new video on PS4 Linux. In my earlier video, I showed you how you could set up your own home server using just an OpenWrt running device, which in my case was a router, okay? And in this video, we're gonna take it a step further. We're gonna set up our very own private media server using Jellyfin on OpenWrt running on a Docker container. All of this might sound gibberish to many of you guys, but don't worry, everything will be explained in this detailed tutorial where I'll show you how you could set up Docker on OpenWrt and then install Jellyfin on it and then set it up. So many of you guys are wondering, what is Jellyfin? So this is how the official page puts it. For people who do not understand, it is an app that takes your media, including movies and TV shows and stuff like that, and creates a very beautiful interface for you to actually access it. And it also grabs information from the internet regarding the synopsis, artwork, including the posters and stuff like that. So it actually helps you create your very own OTT platform, I could say. Now, the next thing that we're going to use for this project is Docker. Here is what the Docker developers have to say about their software, that is Docker. So for those who do not understand that, Docker can be considered mini VMs or virtual machines, or rather Docker containers are actually mini VMs that contain a particular software running on it. This makes it easier for us to install multiple applications across OSs without having to worry about the dependencies and stuff, because everything is taken care of by Docker. And that's what we're going to utilize for this tutorial to install Jellyfin. Okay. By the way, before we proceed to the video that is the tutorial, here's a quick disclaimer. And if you're okay with the disclaimer, you can continue, okay? So first of all, we're going to begin with the requirements. Obviously, you're going to need a device running OpenWrt, but let me make it clear. Running Jellyfin on a Docker container is pretty CPU and RAM intensive. So I do suggest that you get an Android box or any other software which has at least 2 GB of RAM and a proportionately good CPU to run this. You may try this on your router, but I don't think that you will have much success running it smoothly, okay? So I would recommend that you consider an Android box for this. I'm personally using my S905 Android box for this tutorial, okay? I would also try to make a list of good boxes for you to buy to try this out, okay? For now, remember that you need a good device running OpenWrt, and it also needs to have a USB or memory card port. In this tutorial, we're going to be using USB, but you could also try a memory card port. It might require certain adjustments, but more or less the process remains the same, okay? And I also recommend that you have Samba server running on your OpenWrt to manage the files properly, okay? Jellyfin does provide you ways to manage the files, but it's easier to do it with the Samba server, okay? If you don't know how to set up Samba server on your OpenWrt device, you could check my other tutorial. I will leave a link in the description, go to check that out, okay? Moreover, if you want a good download manager for OpenWrt, there is also ARIA 2, you could try that as well. I have a tutorial regarding that, you could check that as well. I'm hoping that you might not try this on a router, but if you do try this on a router, there are chances that you are running out of internal storage space. There is a way to increase internal storage on these routers, and that is using xroot. Again, a good tutorial on that will be left in the description. And once you have that, the second thing you're going to need is SSH or terminal access to the OpenWrt device. And then obviously you're going to require a USB drive. You will also require gparted live ISO, which we had used in the earlier tutorial on setting up the Samba server. You can check that out as well, okay? This will be required for repartitioning the drive if you have already set it up. In my case, I have already set up the Samba server so that managing the files can be easier. So I will be repartitioning my drive to actually shrink the Samba server partition and create another partition for Docker. All of this will be made clear in the tutorial later on, so just keep watching, okay? And then the final requirement for this tutorial is obviously a device with internet browser, which is connected to your OpenWrt device, meaning my Android box and my PC are connected to the same home network, okay? Now let us quickly jump into the tutorial, starting with step 1, which is installing Docker on the OpenWrt. In my case, the image that I had taken for my Android box, which came from OpHub's GitHub page, it already had Docker built in, as you can see right here. It says Docker here, so I already have that set up, okay? But chances are in your case, you do not have that installed, pre-installed that is, okay? So what you have to do is you have to get terminal access, as you can see right here. I have logged in as root to my OpenWrt device, that is my S905 Amlogic Android box, okay? And then I'm going to type opkg update. We are ready to install the packages which are required for Docker, okay? Now, this is a command that you need to run to install the packages required for Docker. It is also available on my blog. You can just copy and paste it, okay? Once you run that, you will have installed Docker on your OpenWrt device, okay? And that was step 1. Now let's move on to step 2, where we actually set up the USB drive for Jellyfin on OpenWrt. Okay. Now, running Jellyfin on Docker requires two partitions to be created on the USB drive, at least. So the first partition is obviously the media partition, which obviously holds our movies and TV shows or whatever you want to share. The partition that we have already set up for Samba share can be used for this purpose. So we're not going to touch that. Also, this assumes that you already have Samba network share folder set up on your OpenWrt device. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about that again because we have a detailed tutorial on that. Okay. You can check that out in the description. Okay. The second partition that we need to create is for Docker. This will be called the Docker root partition or the Docker root directory. Okay. This is where Docker's config and container files will go. So this is important as well. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the USB drive from my Android box, which is currently hosting my Samba share folders. Okay. And then I'm going to shrink the Samba share folder and make space for this Docker root partition. Now, this is one thing that you have to keep in mind. If this USB drive in question also is running xroot, then make sure that you're powering off your router before you run this step. Okay. All you have to do is type power off and then press enter. But I will not need this because right now my USB drive that is plugged into my Android box does not have xroot on. Okay. It only has the Samba share folder on or the partition on. So I'm safe. I'm just going to unplug my USB drive from my Android box and plug it into my PC to access it on a virtual machine running gparted live. I'm going to take you there in a minute. Just keep watching. Okay. All right. So gparted is here. And as you can see, my device has been already automatically selected. That is my USB device. Okay. And this was actually my Samba share folder. Okay. As you can see, it is using up all the space right now. Okay. And if you don't see your device listed in the device selector, all you have to do is go to gparted and click refresh devices. Since mine is already listed, what I'm going to do is right click on this existing partition and click on resize. Okay. And then use this slider to move it a bit back. Okay. So this portion that you see, large portion, has to go to the media folder. We will only require a little bit of space for the Docker root partition. To be safe, I'm going to say 4 to 5 GB is fine for that. Okay. Remember, the Jellyfin image install would alone take around 1 to 2 GBs of space. So we're going to make space for that. Okay. So I'm going to drag it a little bit till this value says 5220 or something around that. Around that is 4 to 5 GB. Okay. Once that is done, I'm going to click on resize. Okay. And that creates a 5.10 GB unallocated space towards the end while this partition is shrunk. Okay. Let me just quickly remind you again, this partition pertains to my Samba network share folder. Okay. And now I'm going to create an X4 partition out of this unallocated space. Right click on it, click on new, and then make sure that X4 is selected and click on add. Okay, this creates another X4 partition, and then I'm going to click on this tick to finalize all the changes and click on apply. Okay. And that's it. The whole process is complete. I will unplug my USB drive from this virtual machine right now and plug it back into my Android box. Okay. And with the USB drive plugged back into my Android box, I'm going to go to the Lucy admin page that you can see right here by using my Android device's IP address. Okay. And then I'm going to go into system and click on mount points to see if both the partitions have been mounted. Okay. I'm going to scroll down and this would show me the mounted file systems. As you can see, SDA1 and SDA2 are both mounted. Okay. SDA1 pertains to the network share folder. Okay. So that's fine. It has to be mounted, but we will have to unmount this SDA2 because we don't want it mounted to /mnt/SDA2. We have to mount it to a different partition. So we're going to unmount it from here. Okay. Click on unmount. And then to mount it to our desired partition, we're going to click on add under mount points. Okay. Select /dev/SDA2 from this list. Okay. And as you can see, this is my partition. And as for the mount point, I'm going to click here and then click on custom and then type /opt/docker. Okay. And then press enter. Now I'm going to click on save. Now, once you've made sure that it is properly mounted, you have to click on save and apply. And as you can see, now under mounted file systems, we have this, okay, which says that it is properly mounted. To ensure that it is properly mounted, you could also run this command on a terminal, okay, df -opt/docker, and then press enter. It should say /dev/sda2 right here, okay. We are ready to move on to the next step, okay. I'm going to quickly clear my window. In the next step, let's just type this command to see if it actually exists. And as you can see, it does exist. But we will have to change this value right here. How am I going to do that? Let me show you that. Okay. If you haven't yet installed the nano file editor, you will have to install it for easier file editing. Okay, if you want to install it, all you have to do is type on opkg install nano. Okay, I have already installed it, so I'm not going to type that again. Okay, once you have nano installed, what you're going to do is type on nano space slash etc slash config slash dockered. Okay, and then press enter. This will give you write access to the file. I'm going to go here and make sure that this is removed and make sure that it points to the proper root directory for Docker, which we had set up earlier. Let me just remind you, this one right here. Okay, and that is /opt/docker. Okay, once we are ready with that, I'm going to press on Control S and Control X together to save and exit. Okay, now if you do face any issues during these steps, you can also always check the article in the description. I will be adding troubleshooting steps from time to time. Okay, now we have made changes to the Docker config file, so it would be best that we reboot at this point. Okay, let me just quickly reboot my router by typing reboot and press enter. You could also try just, like logging out of the Lucy panel right here by going to log out and then logging back in, but I would not recommend that at this point. It is better to reboot the system altogether after you have set up Docker. Okay, now once the reboot has complete, you can go back to the Lucy web admin page using the IP address and then just log in to the admin page. Now just click on Docker. You should see all of these menu options as you see right here. If you do not, check the troubleshooting steps in the blog article that is linked to the description. Okay, there are certain fixes for that. You could try that as well if it does not work. Okay, if it does, you're good to go. Just to confirm that the opt docker folder has been reflected properly, I'm going to go into Docker and click on overview. And as you can see, it says /opt docker and it says that 4.67 GB is available, which is correct since that is the approximate size of /dev/sdk2. Okay, now that completes the third step of the process. Now we'll move on to the step 4, that is adding user and folders for Jellyfin and setting proper directory permissions. Okay, to set up user permissions, we will need to add a user. And for that, I'm going to quickly jump into my terminal right here. And then I'm going to install the packages that is necessary to add a user. Okay, this is the command that you need to run once you have it copied from my blog, or rather type down, just press enter. And the package has been successfully installed. Now to add a new user, this is the command that you type, user add a space followed by your preferred username. I'm going to name my new user noob. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter. And now we need to make the directories for Jellyfin's config and cache to go into, and then we'll assign these directories to this new user, that is noob. Okay, let me first make the directories, and this is the command that you need to run to make these subfolders. That is, within home we'll create a new folder called noob, within that Jellyfin, and then within that another directory called cache. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter. So yes, we have created that folder. Now the next folder that we need to create is within Jellyfin itself. We need to create a folder called config. So I'm going to type that in as well and then press enter. So these two folders have been created. If you want to check, you can. Sure, I'm going to show you the command to do that. Okay, ls and then home and then noob. As you can see, Jellyfin is created. I'm going to go into Jellyfin and see if the two folders, cache and config, yes, they have been created. Now we need to make sure that the new user that we created has direct access or has the ownership of these files. To do that, I'm going to type chown space -R noob :noob. Okay, replace these characters with whatever username you have set right here. Okay, and for me it is obviously noob. So, and also do not forget this colon in between. Okay, and then set home/home/noob. That is the folder that we created right here. If you had named it differently, just make sure that it is reflected right here as well. Okay, and then press enter. So yep, we have also set the proper permissions. Okay, now we'll have to figure out the UID GID pair for this new user, that is noob. To do that, what I'm going to do is type cat space /etc/passwd and then press enter. And as you can see, the new user, that is noob, has this UID GID pair, that is 32769:32769. Make a note of this. We're going to require this later on. Okay, and that finishes step 4 of our process. Now we'll move on to pull the Jellyfin Docker image, or rather install the Jellyfin Docker image onto our OpenWrt device. Okay, to do that, on the same terminal, I'm going to type docker space pull space Jellyfin/Jellyfin. Okay, type this exactly as it is, or rather copy it from our blog and then press enter. This process might take some time depending on your internet connection speed. Okay, we're going to wait for that to complete. And that's it. The installation is complete, as you can see right here. To verify, I can go to my Lucy page, as you can see right here. Go into Docker and click on images to see if Jellyfin appears here. Yes, it does. So that prepares us for the next step, that is setting up and starting Jellyfin Docker container on OpenWrt. To do this, I'm going to go into Docker and then click on containers. Okay. And then I'm going to add a container. How do I do that? Click on add here, obviously, and then provide a name for this container. It can be anything, but I'm going to be using the name Jellyfin for this. Okay. And then I'm going to choose the Docker image by using this drop down menu, Jellyfin/Jellyfin : latest. That is our Docker image. Okay. Leave these two unticked for now. And then click on this as well. Always pull image first. That should be ticked. And then as for the restart policy, I'm going to set it to always, so that Jellyfin is started automatically on every boot, or if it fails for some reason, it will automatically restart. Okay. And then as for the network, I'm going to set it to host. We can leave the custom DNS server as is. Okay. You don't have to change that. Now here comes the user part. This is where we'll have to supply the UID JID pair that we had made a note of in the earlier step. I'm going to quickly revise that for you. Just to run this command, cat/etc/password, go to your user and get this pair. Okay, this is the pair that we need. I've copied it from there. Now I'm going to come here and paste it right here, as you can see. Okay, now as for the environmental variables, I'm going to set my time zone here. To do that, what I'm going to do is TZ is equal to Asia/Kolkata. That is for India. Yours would depend on your region. Okay, change it accordingly. And as for this bind mount portion, we'll have to supply 3 folders here. Okay, rather the links or the proxies for the 3 folders. Okay, the first one being our config folder, and this is the code that you need to type in here. Okay, now this points to our config folder. Yours might be different, especially this portion that says noob. Okay, if you had set up a different folder right here, as you can see right here, you will have to change that accordingly here. Okay, so this is my config folder. Once I have that in, I'm going to click on this plus button. Do not forget to click this plus button. I'm going to copy it right here and then just change these values. Config, I'm going to change to cache. Again, I'm going to repeat it right here. Okay, cache. Okay, and then click on this plus button. Do not forget that. Now I'm going to provide the folder which pertains to my network share, or rather my media folder, and that would be this partition, that is /mnt/sda1. You would remember that from the earlier portion of this video. Okay, if yours is different, just make sure that you are providing it properly here, and then add a colon and then a slash and then media. Okay, this would be your media folder. Okay, press on the plus again here. Do not forget that. Okay. And once you have all of this set, you're ready to click on submit. You can also click on advanced to look into the advanced options if you want to change those. I'm going to keep those at default for now. And then I'm going to click on submit. Okay. Okay, this means the container has been created. Now to start the container, all I have to do is click on this small tick box here and then click start. Okay. Now this will start the container, but it's going to take some time to bring up the Jellyfin interface. Okay, so we're going to wait for like 2 to 3 minutes for that to complete. Now once you have waited for 2 to 3 minutes, copy this IP that you see right here. This pertains to your Android box or your OpenWrt device that is currently running Docker and then Jellyfin on top of it. Just copy it to a new tab right here. And then soon after the end of the IP address, just remove any slashes or anything that comes after it, and add a colon and then type 8096. This has to be exactly the code that you type, except for this portion that depends on your setup. Okay, you have to type a colon followed by 8096 and then press enter. This will drop you into Jellyfin's welcome wizard. Okay, you can set your language and stuff here. Now this will ask for a username and password. This can be different from what you have used right here, as you can see, noob or noob. For example, I'm going to just provide test here and provide a password, a good password. Okay, and then click on next. Okay, it's going to ask if you want to add a media library right now. I'm just going to quickly show you how it is done. Okay, so you will have to click on it and then choose your media type. I'm going to choose movies and then movies. And as for the folders, you click here and then you can see that /media is shown. When you click on /media, it would direct you to your /mnt/sda1. If you remember our container setting, let me just quickly bring you back to it. We had redirected /media to point to /mnt/sda1. So whatever movies or content you have on your Samba or network share folder will be shown here. You can make a different folder for movies. As for the naming convention for these movies, I have left a link to that in the blog article. Do check that out in the description. Okay, once you have said that, click on OK, and then you can leave these to default, and all of these have specific purposes. For example, if you set up enable real-time monitoring, Jellyfin will keep on looking for new media added and automatically add these to the interface along with information like posters and trailers or whatever you have. Okay, so that will be done automatically if you leave this on. And you can also choose the metadata downloaders and image downloaders, and you can also choose to save the artwork. For example, when Jellyfin adds a movie, it also adds its poster and stuff. If you want it side by side with the movie file, then you can click on this. Okay, and then click on OK when you're satisfied with the settings. Then click on next, and then you can choose the region here, whatever. We'll just leave this on tick. You don't have to tick this one right now. Okay, then click on next and then finish. Now you can just log into the admin dashboard using the username and password that you just set up. Okay, I'm going to use that, and here is my interface. I've not added the movies and stuff like that, and I'm not going to discuss that in this video. You can check out tons of videos on that. I've also left a few links on the blog article that you can check out to find how you can set up or like beautify Jellyfin. Moreover, there are also some troubleshooting steps in the article that you can check out if you face any issues during any part of this whole video. Okay, not only that, even when you play content, you might find that your device's CPU usage is very high. There are also fixes for that. The fixes for that are described in the blog article. Do check that out. Okay, and that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.